Forget about Pump.fun's $1.3 billion raise, because crypto's fastest growing app ever just openly declared war on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch. Meanwhile, rival launchpads like LetsBonk and Jupiter are stealing market share. Pump.fun's leaked tokenomics suggest a 24% airdrop and community allocation, which could mean huge rewards for traders and token creators. But that hasn't stopped the trenches from calling Pump.fun an extraction mechanism. So, what's up with Solana's Launchpad wars, and how much of an airdrop will the degens really be receiving? Pump.fun is undoubtedly the single most polarizing launchpad in crypto. But while everyone's distracted by Pump.fun's eye-watering $1.3 billion raise, busy bickering about airdrop allocations, and arguing over whether or not Pump.fun is max extracting from the ecosystem, they're also missing the bigger picture, which is that a full-blown Solana Launchpad war has already begun, with names like Jupiter, Bonk, and Believe now all challenging the throne. Now, this decline in market share began back in May, with Pump.fun's dominance slowly shrinking as new entrants appeared. We saw a very clear pattern emerging, with Sol whales showing a preference for LetsBonk, while NFT whales and degens were more active on platforms like Boop. But things took a really weird turn when LetsBonk recorded 11,000 tokens and over $1 million in 24-hour fees. Fast forward 2 months to today, and we're seeing a whole host of Solana launchpads which are now noticeably chipping away at Pump.fun's market share. Because within just 73 days of launch, LetsBonk flipped Pump.fun in daily revenue and trading volume, something that was quite literally unthinkable a few months ago. Pump.fun's dominance went from 90% to 21% in just 8 days. And you can see the massive growth in these orange bars that represent LetsBonk's growing market share since July 1st. Now, this bonk resurgence actually is a really important development, because if we compare the daily tokens launched on Solana's meme coin launchpads, we see that LetsBonk now drives an impressive 75% of daily activity, having overtaken Pump.fun after a year and a half of dominance. At least one of the reasons why Solana maxis seem to prefer Bonk over Pump.fun is that Pump.fun quote-unquote market sold $600 million in Sol and prevented Sol price from rising. Now they're raising $700 million to challenge streaming giants, while they already removed millions from Solana. As this user points out, it appears that Bonk is more supportive of the ecosystem by burning Bonk and staking Sol. But of course there's more, because Solana's leading DEX aggregator also entered the arena with Jupiter Studio, which recorded an impressive $100 million in trading volume on day one alone. Jupiter reports over 6,000 tokens launched and an impressive 15% of daily token deployment share. But they're aiming to do things a little bit differently and avoid being seen as a Pump.fun clone or a variation. They're doing this by positioning Jupiter Studio as a culture design lab. Now, the magic sauce here is the anti-sniping mechanics, creator-owned token pages, and of course 50% of the fees going to creators forever. Now, with all these new entries like Jupiter and Bonk, the meme coin wars are getting violent, as this user points out, and the Bonk trenches are surging as it flips Pump for activity. So here's a very quick rundown of how Pump.fun rose to become crypto's most successful and highest revenue generating app. Launched in early 2024, Pump.fun essentially democratized token launches. No code, no VCs, and no friction. The tagline was that anyone could launch a meme coin in under 60 seconds. And the results were an impressive 2 million tokens launched and $700 million in fees generated, which is more revenue than Ethereum at its peak. Pump.fun really became the engine behind Solana's meme coin culture by democratizing token launches. So we already know that Pump.fun has officially confirmed its Pump ICO, raising expectations with a $1.3 billion target, which is significantly higher than the originally reported $1 billion. But what's new and a rather unexpected development here is that Pump opened pre-market trading on Bybit, one of the world's largest centralized exchanges. And this happened 2 whole days before the ICO at a mind-blowing $5.1 billion fully diluted valuation, which is wildly 27.5% higher than the $4 billion ICO. So while this creates a whole host of new questions about how likely investors are to even 2x their investment, here's everything we know for now. The Pump token started pre-market trading on Bybit on the 10th, with a July 12th ICO still scheduled. The token price is set at $0.004, with a total supply of 1 trillion tokens. The public sale only equates to 15% of supply, with a private allocation of 18%, which is unsurprisingly already sold. But there's also an impressive community allocation of 24%, which is tied to incentives and airdrops, although max buy was limited to 500k per users, with the EU being excluded entirely. Meme coin trader and on-chain analyst Adam points to the 10 or so wallets which are currently topping the trading volume leaderboard because they're likely going to receive the lion's share of any pump token airdrop. While the entire 24% likely won't drop at TGE, vesting data suggests that up to 15% of the supply may well be distributed immediately to the community, making this one of the most anticipated Solana airdrops of the year. Here's co-founder Alan's comments from a while ago.
Our goal is to make our users rewarded to some extent. And yeah, again, like I think our airdrop will probably, no guarantees here, but will probably be quite a lot more lucrative than anyone else at the moment in the space, I would say. So yeah.
With these recent announcements, Pump.fun's clearly leaning into this vision of a Web3 native creator economy by reserving a portion, maybe even $120 million of the ICO proceeds for live streamers and what they call future ecosystem incentives. Now, although the buyback mechanism remains unconfirmed for the time being, we know that internal posts reference some utility mechanisms like rebates, buybacks, and promotions. Remains to be seen what that is. The co-founder Alon says the platform now has 70 plus team members, and he hints at the first ever acquisition, and he's even teasing aggressive growth and hiring across Web3. Now, we'll be following this one very closely in the coming weeks, so to stay ahead of the curve, you can of course subscribe to Solana Floor for more airdrop updates and alpha. But here's why the community has been beyond divided about Pump.fun's ICO and the $4 billion valuation since the ICO details first leaked about a month ago. Pump.fun became the fastest growing company in history, as we saw earlier, reaching $100 million, $300 million, and even $500 million in revenue, faster than any other company in the world. Now, while many celebrated this as a win for crypto, others point to the amount of value that's already been extracted from the ecosystem. This polarization is actually quite important to understand, because it seems that even the 24% token supply allocation to community incentives and airdrops is not enough. This user calls the Pump.fun growth trajectory the art of max extract, with disgruntled CT pundits posting the proposed tokenomics breakdown and referring to it as the great extraction. Others in the Solana ecosystem like Ansem point to the peculiarity of CT's negative sentiment. Ansem argues that a crypto company achieving 630 mil in revenue in under a year and then raising an impressive 1.3 billion, meaning they have a total of 2 billion in cash to scale, is not the type of progress we should dismiss as necessarily negative for the industry. While we only have unconfirmed reports and rumors about the official airdrop structure, all eyes now turn to Saturday, July 12th, with Solana's trenches still torn between the viral app that kickstarted meme coin mania and the newfound success of LetsBonk, which, as we saw, managed to flip Pump.fun in daily trading volumes, revenues, and token deployments. Let me know if you think the ICO will overshadow Bitcoin reaching an all-time high over the weekend, and if the Pump token can mint any new millionaires even with that 500k limit. I'll be following and reporting on all the upcoming meme coin, Launchpad, and airdrop developments, so please subscribe to Solana Floor if you want to stay ahead of the curve on those, and I'll see you next time for more of the very latest.